a lot of my clients ask me whether I'm using the right stock photography license. When you buy a stock photo, you need to make sure if you're using it on your book cover that you have the right license to be able to sell products, because that may be different from the print use or the digital use or how many copies you can sell. So it's important to check to make sure you have the right license. And I'm going to show you some of the main book cover stock photo sites that I use and what their different licensing rules are. I think you'll be surprised. So I'm going to look at my screen so I can show you some of these different websites I've been looking at. And it's actually, I think, changed in the last few years. When I started, I think they were more protective. Actually, you would think it would be looser in the beginning and it would start to become more protective as more people use. But actually, it seems like in almost all stock photography sites, you have a standard license and an extended license. And it seems recently the standard license has become broader and lets you use it for things that you wouldn't normally expect, because the standard license is probably, $4 or $5, and the extended license might be $50 to $100. So you would think for a book cover, you would need an extended license, but that's actually not true in most cases. So this is depositphotos.com, and the standard license says basically if the file plays a minor role in the item, it's okay. So if you're doing a book cover and you use just the image exactly as it is without much change, then it probably plays a major role. And if you did a lot of photoshopping, excuse me, if you did a lot of photoshopping and that particular image is only one little part of this bigger scene, then it might be okay because it's a minor role. But actually, if you go down here, let me see where I found it. Digital use, printed use, this is extended. So it's okay for covers and books. So that's ebooks and print books, print use, as long as the particular file isn't the main thing, as long as it plays a minor role. So if you take like a character and it's probably like a 20th of the art and not, there's a free use when you're doing like fine arts. If you take something and you repurpose it and you make it your own, as long as it's almost not recognizable, or if it's about 20% of the final piece, that's usually okay and copyright free. It just can't be exactly the same. So for deposit photo, their rule is basically it's got to be a minor or major role. That's the difference. And that's kind of unique to deposit photos. And it's also the quantity of copies. I saw in here somewhere how many books you could print, and it was a huge number. What you usually can't do is just take an image and resell it. So you can't usually take like a picture and turn it into a poster, because you'd be selling the same thing, even if you put it like the same picture on a coffee cup, because you're selling the same thing. You're selling the poster or the cup. Without that picture, the item doesn't have value. It's really not the same with books, because the book is just a packaging, and the content, the material that you're selling is really the book that's on the inside. So there's a lot of gray area, and even in this one where it's major or minor, there's a lot of room for interpretation, and you would never want to go to court or be in a lawsuit about stuff like this. And the nice thing is, if you were doing something, if you were taking something from like a photography site, you'd be more at risk because the photographer would be more protective of his content. If you're taking stuff from a stock photo site, they all actually protect you from a lot of legal action. So you want to be aware of the licenses, but also they're less dire than you might think. Let's take a look at some of the other ones so you can see what I mean. Big stock photo. Well, let's go to 123rf.com. At 123rf.com, another one I use a lot, commercial and advertising usage. This is the standard license and the extended license. For offline advertising, printed documents, and down here we have books and ebooks sale and distribution. The standard license is actually okay for 300,000 copies of your book. That's pretty insane. So you might think you would need this extended license, but I mean, it would be great if you're self-publishing and you sell 300,000, and in that case, you might be in trouble. Like when you get up to the 250,000 range, you could come in and buy the extended license just to make sure you're safe. But that's a lot of copies. So you really don't need to be worried about if you're using 123rf.com, if you're using photos, whether you got the standard or the print license, because even with the standard license, you're allowed to make 300,000 copies. And it divides this way by the print number. So it doesn't, like the deposit photo site was whether you used minor or major, but in 123rf.com, it's just the copy. So you could just use a picture as your book cover and really not do much photoshopping, and you would still be okay for print use. And then for Istock also, which is a more expensive one, probably the most expensive option for buying pictures. Although if you buy the like a monthly pass, it's pretty affordable. And so here's standard license and extended license. And for book covers, the standard license is okay for 500,000 covers, 500,000 books. So even if we didn't get into the gray areas of major or minor, or whether you're selling the book cover art or if you're really selling the content on the inside, I mean, this is pretty clear because I actually think when I started like 3 or 4 years ago, they didn't have exact specifications like this on their websites. Like they're telling you for book covers and for print book covers, although they don't say print right here, but anyway, books and book covers. The other one said books and ebook covers. They're getting more specific in their language, but still they say it's up to 499,000, I mean, impressions, which means sales or copies. So even with Istock, you don't really have to worry about standard versus extended because you're covered under the standard license for up to 500,000 sales of your book, which you may be optimistic and buy, a extended license anyway because you think you're going to sell 1 million copies. Personally, I wouldn't. I would just buy a standard license and then see how it goes, because you also want to be publishing a lot of books before you start to build up your platform and get the kind of traffic that's going to let you sell more copies. So I would start with standard and then switch over to extended if I need it later. If it's not that much more money, you might want to just protect yourself by buying it. It might be 50 or 100 bucks just so you have it in case the photo disappears from the site in the future or something. But I think it's a topic you really don't have to worry about as much as you think you have to worry about it, because I know a lot of authors want to protect themselves and be careful. And you should always check the different license issues, but in most cases for these big stock photography sites, the standard license is actually going to be okay for use in your book cover. So that's all. And you want to check the main sites that you're going to be using and see what they say, but it's less of an issue than you think it is. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.